friends, welcome to NWHL Open Ice, OMS, OOS, Muppet. Thank you for that subscription. Thank you for supporting the league. Everyone, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our third from last Open Ice show. But don't worry, I've gotten like special permission from the producers to go a little bit longer tonight. So it's gonna like feel like 2 episodes. So it's really like our 4th from last episode. Maybe. I don't know. So some things happened this week. Things have changed a little bit. We unfortunately did not get to watch the Isabel Cup. But the good news is that like maybe we get to watch it in the future. Maybe. So for those of you who have questions like, when is the cup going to be? Is this going to affect next season? How will my life change? Commissioner and founder Danny Rylan addressed that on Twitter today. So I just want to show you what she said and read it to you. Had a call today with NWHL executives, and here's what we decided. Let's take a moment to care for each other, look out for one another, and be smart and safe. There will always be time for hockey. We have every intention of presenting the 2020 Isabel Cup final between the Minnesota and Boston. The season is set to open in October. We will monitor where things stand and communicate all we can in the coming weeks. For now, let's all continue to do our part to ensure the health and safety of everyone around us. Listen, y'all, she's right. I know for most of you, I'm still some like random talk show host and you're not like quite sure who I am, but I am a real life practicing physician. That doc and gamer doc is real. And let me tell you, keep your social distancing. Just stay at home. Spend some time with your loved ones. Call your grandma, call your mom. Spend some time to focus on you. You know, we're not going to talk about what's going on in life at the rest of the show. After this, we're not talking about this at all, okay? Because now is your escape. Now is your time to have fun, turn off your brain. But I just want to make sure everyone knows, just social distance. And, you know, staying at home is not that big of a deal. Because, I don't know if you know this, I also stream on Wednesdays. Just saying. I stream on Wednesdays. So if you're looking for something to do on Wednesday night, got that night covered. Just saying. All right. Tonight's guest, let's move on. Tonight's guest, I don't know about you, but I've like personally been waiting for her all season, you know? That final boss battle. Been preparing, I've been studying up, I've been learning all about the Packer households. I'm ready. I've got some questions for her. I'm sure that you all have some questions for her. So I'm going to make a concerted effort to get to most of your questions if I can. So if you have questions for Anya, we're going to do them at the end of the show. So there's 2 ways to submit. One is you can start asking right now. We're not going to ask them when you say them, but we will be cataloging them for later in the show. And the second way, which is actually more efficient because we usually get to all the Twitter questions, is to ask on Twitter. Just make sure you do hashtag NWHL Open Ice. Got that? Do you need help with that name? Questions, comments? Got it? Cash? You guys ready? Ready for this? Tonight's guest is the one and only Anya Packer. She signed with the Connecticut Whale in 2015 and played there until she retired. She now serves as the executive director of the NWHL Players Association. Please welcome the one, the only, Anya Packer. Hi, Anya.
Hi, how are you?
Sorry, did we catch you in the middle of like your warm-up routine or something?
I was like fixing my hair. Unique New York.
Lanolin. Yeah. Like sheep's wool? Well, thank you for joining us on the show tonight. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for inviting me. I was wondering if I would ever get the call up for Gamer Doc.
I think we were waiting for, you know, like later in the show when we needed that really big heavy hitter, you know?
Oh, yeah, that's what we needed.
But big shoes to fill. Like, if you mess up tonight, then everyone will be talking about it, you know?
I'm sure.
So that's awkward. Anyways, so my first question is, you have been around the league in varying capacities since the league was a thing, right? You were playing, you've
Yep.
been on the ice, you've been off the ice, you've been a little time in the penalty box, you've been in the commentator's booth. What has been your favorite NWHL memory thus far?
I think I have two. One, if I'm thinking about it solely as myself, and then the other, if I kind of think about my like holistic family and my holistic life. The first one was actually Kaylee Fratkin, who plays on the Boston Pride, and I, when we first got involved, first heard about the league, we actually went to New York City to Chelsea Piers to the like a launch party of the whole ideology of it. I met Danny Ryland. We started talking to different folks about playing in Connecticut. We were going to do this whole thing together. So I think that night when I realized it could happen, I didn't even make the team yet, but I just had the itch to just chase that dream down. That was probably for me. That was one of my favorite moments of my whole entire life, knowing that women could be paid to play hockey, and
Yes.
that could be me. So that was amazing. And then the other was running down to the ice when Madison won the Isabel Cup, and just watching her pick it up and being so proud, and just being there. Her parents were there. I was sitting up in the stands, and when they won, I literally started crying. I was like screaming. I like grabbed Maddie's parents and ran down to the ice. So, when I think about some moments that have really changed my life, I think those two were pretty high up there.
That's awesome. Am I the only one who's like thinks about calling Madison Packer Maddie and is just like, I don't think I could do that. Go Riveter 70 just said I gave you an underwhelming intro. I'm sorry, but I feel like you speak for yourself as a human, and no amount of intro I could ever say would ever do you justice. So I should have played you like entrance music and then had like a smoke bomb go off. I know.
Some kind of like rock, like I could have like jumped out of my window and been
yeah,
like,
yeah, or like some sort of like net shaped cake, but like smashed through it.
We did something wrong
Next time. Next year. You'll definitely be on the show next year. So we'll do it. Go Riveters. We got you for next year, buddy. I'm sorry. So you started playing, like I said, for the Whale in 2015. And then in 2017, you joined on as the director of the NWHL Players Association. A lot of people who even are following the league, a lot of people who know a lot about, the players don't know a lot about what that is. They think maybe it's just like a union. So can you just speak a little bit about the organization and some of the things you do with it?
Yeah. So the NWHLPA is comprised of 2 representatives from every team. We aren't at the point yet where we have a single appointed player and then their, kind of associate. It's equal in full. So the way that the PA works is we have 2 pro bono lawyers. We negotiate on the players' behalf. At this point, we haven't formally unionized. We've certainly talked about it with our lawyers time and time again to figure out what the right avenue is and when to go down that route. But the PA works on things that are happening right now, feedback that we're getting from players today, and then long-term things like if we need to make a long-term change, whether that's contract changes or advocate for bigger and better and say, hey, we're going to reject this or we want to change in this function. That's also comprised of some now subcommittees. Those subcommittees work on different high level and high leverage prospective problems that we've identified. So it's ever changing. It really becomes whatever the PA needs. And its main goal and main interest is to get more and better for the players every single day, whether that's, food on the road isn't correct right now and we cannot continue this season with the way it is. And those are live changes that we'll have to make and talk to GMs and operate on that function. Or if it's long-term changes like, hey, we want to be 8 teams in this many years, we need to present that to the league and the board and advocate for why we want these things. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into what the PA does.
Very cool. Do you have any like law background? I feel like this is a lot of advocacy and a lot of speaking and a lot of negotiating. Do you have any background like that?
So I don't.
Just living with Madison?
Yeah, there you go. I'm with her. She always hits me with the legal ramifications of things. But I think that the biggest piece for me is that I have 2 lawyers that have been honestly unbelievably gracious with their time.
That's great.
To the point where I could like text one of our lawyers, and it all actually was spearheaded by what I would call my closest relationship on the PA is our lawyer, Christina. she was a Riveters season ticket holder that ended up reaching out to me and just saying, "Hey, how can I help you?" She works with like more like residential law and things in that realm, and not so much employment law. But she said, "I'm going to leverage my contacts to find us the best employment law lawyer in Manhattan that we can get in front of or plead our case to." And she was like ready to set up 15, 20 meetings with all these different lawyers to find somebody
Wow.
to take us pro bono. And the first guy we met, she essentially said, "This would be the best possible option if you were to say yes." And he was like,
And he
"I
did.
love what you're doing." He was like, "We'll figure out a way." He was like, "We'll figure out time."
That's how it should be, though, because when people see what the league is doing, when people see the potential of the league, of course we want to throw our free time at it. Of course we
Yeah.
want to help. Everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to contribute. If you believe in the league, if you believe in this mission, everyone wants to help. So that's amazing to hear that the lawyers are going to get in. So one of the biggest news going into this year was the 50-50 revenue split, meaning 50% of the revenue generated by new sponsorship deals was going to go directly back to players. Did the NWHL PA have anything to do with that? And can you explain kind of what that means more to everyone?
Yeah, we were hugely involved in it, and it was part of our contract negotiation, and it was actually brought to us by Danny, by the idea of, this is the salaries that we can afford to pay you. And obviously the PA and I are striving for more and better every day. And it was a jump from $100,000 to $150,000 in the
Mm-hmm.
salary cap. And if that were the only change we were making last year, we would have had a very tough conversation. But on top of that, Danny presented this idea of, well, let's find our largest revenue shares or revenue generating opportunities, and let's share them. And so that's when we kind of got into the, well, if we share them 50-50, then we can certainly make a case because, if you're growing, we should be growing too.
Right,
And so
definitely.
it became this kind of holistic conversation where, the business had this much money in the bank. It definitely was paying us at minimum this much. And that was something that we were super sensitive towards. Obviously, knowing the history of the NWHL, you can understand why we would say, what is a guaranteed amount? Let's not shoot for the moon. Let's shoot for what's happening and then zero questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the number we set on 150 for the salary cap, but then negotiated the split. And so it kind of revolutionized all of our conversations because, when you look at the WNBA, they're now advocating for that or added that to their CBA. But in former, they were getting, less than 30%, less than 22%,
Yeah.
I think it was. The NHL, I did some quick math, is getting about 6 or 7%. So
Wow.
when you look at what we were positioning to do, it was just take the opportunity of the pie, and as it grows, share it. Because at this point, we're not negotiating a CBA that has $1 billion in the bank and fighting for all of these different things. We're looking at, how can we A, grow the pie, and B, how are we sharing the pie? How is
Yeah.
it getting sliced up? Are
Yeah.
you going to use our name and face, and we're going to give you our likeness, and then those players are going to get X%, and that's it. So the whole goal was, if our players are doing better on social and our players are becoming a better product to invest in by
Then
sponsors,
then
should
they
we
should
share
grow
that money?
too. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. So that was how we got
I
there.
have to do a brief intermission, y'all. If you're home by yourself and you've washed your hands, there's nothing wrong with touching your face. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so cut it out. Cut it out. You had briefly mentioned that in other leagues the revenue share was significantly lower, like 6-7%. So this isn't normal, is what you're saying. Like, the amount of money that's being split with these athletes is not a normal amount, but it was something that was advocated not only for you, and it was something that Danny was like all for going forward, right? Like, it was,
Yeah.
that's
It was
amazing.
it was a team conversation. It never felt like, at least in this negotiation, not that we've ever really felt super against one another, but in this negotiation, it was more, how do we work together for the common goal? And I think that was a huge win in the conversations that were happening in women's hockey at the time, which seems like, how do you derive a win right now in this exact moment? But it was that the conversation was unified. The conversation was, how do we grow together? The conversation was, what gets us from a very unsure market to a very happy players association. and group of players that is willing to work together to grow the common goal. And like I keep talking about this pie, but that's really what motivates our players is when we ink a deal, when somebody sees the value, when AccuWeather or when Veda or when
Yeah.
Chipwich or when any of our sponsors see the value
Chipwich.
in these women, they're getting paid. It's not just, yeah, I like a Chipwich, or yes, I use the Veda roll-on product. It's great for me. It's these people are actively paying me, and that's really empowering. That's why our players live our brand so well.
Yeah.
Duncan, there's not one sponsor of the league that you're unaware of.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the players like to talk about it. They like to engage in it. They like to advocate for that brand because they feel invested in it. They feel like they have a part of it. They feel like they should be a part of that sponsorship. It's just, I think that what the NWHL is that a lot of other sports leagues are for profit, right? They're a for profit business who wants to make a lot of money, and sometimes the athletes suffer. And yes, the NWHL wants to make money, wants to entertain, but what it feels like organically is that what you all are doing is for the betterment of the sport and is for the betterment of women and women's hockey, and I just freaking love that. I love it. I love it so much. I love it. So thank you for everything you do, and thank you for everything that you have done to make it where it is. We're going to move on. So you're a huge advocate, not only for the league itself, kind of on a similar train of thought, but also for the sport in general. I was reading an interview about you in Pucker Up Sports, and they asked if you had any advice for young girls who want to get into sports. And this is what your quote was. Okay. Be a fan, be a tryhard. Be okay with failing, and surround yourself with supporters. Don't be afraid of naysayers or people that tell you that you cannot do something or become something. Don't be afraid, but most of all, don't quit. Always be hungry, always be ready. Did someone give you that advice when you were growing up, or did you kind of evolve that as you played, as you evolved in the game yourself?
Part of it is this mega chip that I had on my shoulder. I was 5'4". I was from a small town. I, wasn't in the fanciest private schools. I wasn't playing for, the top tier teams. It was my mom, and it was her ability to just look at a coach that maybe wasn't giving me exactly what I needed or wasn't advocating for me in the way that I probably deserved. And, the hours that she saw me just crank and trying to get better. And, I didn't have skating coaches. I didn't have shooting coaches. I didn't have tools. I had myself, and I had the ability to hear, oh, well, you stick handle with PVC pipe and a golf ball. And I did that until I had holes in my hand, so there was all these things that it came from. And at the end of the day, it kind of came from my mom being like, who's going to tell you not to do something? And if they do, mail them your schedule when you figure it out. Like you're gonna make it. And if you're doing too much, they're jealous that they're not doing that. They're not pulling you down because you're bad. They're pulling you down because they're not hungrier than you, or they're not doing what you're doing, and they're not finding an inroad. So as a kid from Waltham who played at public school and who played on a split season, tier 2, tier 1 team at the time, I was going to BU, and one of my roommates had a gold medal, and the other two, Fratty was one of the only girls to play junior B hockey in all of Canada. And my other friend Louise was like killing it at Brewster. These are my 4 roommates. And I was just like, I played the entire game at Waltham High because we didn't have enough defenders to swap out. But that was who I was. And I found a way to make it all work. And so whenever I try to give advice and people hear my side of the story, I was never the best. I was never the captain of the team. I was never anything more than just the person that was going to go through the wall. And whether that wall was being on a team of Olympians and when I left BU and I played on the Boston Blades in the CWHL, I played on a team full of Olympians, and that meant that I wasn't going to play every game, but that meant that every practice I was playing the best hockey of my life.
Yeah,
and
you're getting better every time.
It hard for Doug's. I was going to make it hard for Bell's. I was going to make it hard for all these players that went on to do amazing things. And I felt like I could say I was part of their story. I either challenged them in practice, Or, when Kelly Stack would go down and absolutely light somebody up, I'm like, it's because she's done that to me in practice 150 times. They're like, you're welcome.
But I would counter, though. I wouldn't say that you were a part of someone's story. I would say that you're maybe a major protagonist in a lot of stories. Because I feel like that grinder personality, that, thought process where you're going to be the one who's battling, you're the one who's pushing other people, has led to your position in the NWHLPA. Like, we need people like you. It's the same thing that's happening in the gaming world right now. Like, in the beginning, it was the talented players who were playing hockey, but now as they get a little bit older and they start to be more experienced, they're moving on to the leadership position. They're moving on to the advocacy positions. So I feel like maybe your whole life has been leading up to this moment. I don't know.
I've been challenging my own self this whole time. It's like very meta.
Yeah.
I feel that way. I think that's super important. And I think that when kids don't know how powerful a role player is, they can forget that being a role player is a good thing.
Yeah.
And they can say, oh, well, I'm stuck on the third line.
Yeah.
You're not stuck on the third line. You have the opportunity to be on the third line. That's freaking awesome. Yeah. And I was never worried about that. And I was never concerned about that because I didn't make my memories on the ice. I never sat down with my teammates after the national championship and they didn't say, oh, remember that shift where I passed you the puck? They're like, dude, remember that whole experience that I was there for and I was a part of? And so I never let people around me or kids or anyone feel like being there is not good enough, because you're good enough. If you're not the best player on the team, you can easily be discouraged. But if you know that being on the team with the best makes you better, then go. Like
100%.
Like run.
100%. And I feel like also you were talking about how people get uncomfortable in those positions, but also I feel like from an early age we kind of discourage girls from being, whether it's unconsciously or subconsciously, in certain positions. Like the term bossy. I feel like when you use the term bossy against a kid, it's most often against a girl. It's most often against a little girl. And it's most often against a little girl who either speaks her mind, who has a lot of leadership qualities, who maybe she hasn't quite honed yet. Like, I was called bossy all the time when I was a kid. Did people ever throw that adjective at you? Is that an adjective?
Oh my gosh, all the time.
So like calling a kid bossy, calling a girl bossy is so detrimental because it's pushing down these qualities that will eventually help bring other people up and bring themselves up and be an advocate for other people. So I think one of the things that the league is doing is let's be bossy. Let's be bossy on the ice. Let's be bossy off the ice. Let's respect everyone, but let's get bossy. Like, so I love what you guys are doing. This is just, hey man, it's the NWHL. It's the NWHL. It's the NWHL. I want to share another story that you recently shared in an article about what happened at the All-Star game recently. So I'm just going to read from the article. A little girl dressed head to toe in Waltham Hawks apparel skated right up to me and said, and Waltham Hawks is your alma mater, Anya, I saw your jersey hanging at Waltham High, and I wanted you to know mine's going to be right next to it. Did you just like immediately start crying, or did you like hug her, or what happened after that? I just want to know.
Those are so hard because in the moment I just want to cry, but I know that that's not what she needs. She doesn't need me to be like, oh my God, thank you. She needs me to be like, is it? Like, are you gonna be there? Like, I'm pumped for you. Like, what's your number? How many goals do you have? Like, what's your position? Like, do you play goalie? Are you this? Are you that? And so like we just kind of went through this like whole like line of questioning, and I was like, well, like, what's your thing? Mm-hmm. And so I talked to her and like had this whole conversation, and we like fangirled over each other, and like we had this like crazy little like connection. And then she skated away, and Madison comes over to me and goes, who was that kid? Like this like scowl on her face, and I'm like, why? What's your deal? And she goes, she skated right up to me and goes, do you know where Anya is? And she goes, like, I'm the captain of Team Packer. Don't you want my autograph? Or like, don't you want to? I was like, no, loser. Like, so she comes over and she starts telling me this whole story. But Maddie was laughing because there's been a couple of times when we're in Waltham, like Madison is no one, and everyone's like, oh, that's Anya Battolino. She always yes. Everyone needs to come to Waltham. I'm like the biggest hype in the city of Waltham.
I want that when you tell that story next time, can you make it that like the little girl iced Madison? Like she like, like
punched her in the face.
Or like stopped really heavy and like iced her, was like, where's your wife, man? I don't want to talk to you anymore.
So we then ran into her mother, and her mother said the kindest things. And I think that that's where I can kind of be a little bit more emotional because, um, obviously at that time, nobody knew that I was pregnant and I wasn't on the ice. So I
Oh,
felt really guilty, but I wasn't getting on the ice. And so she was like, "Oh, like bummer. Did you like not have your skates?" I told her that you were going to be out on the ice. And I was like, "I'm sorry, which didn't work out this year. I didn't bring my skates, but I just wanted to say thank you. Like what you're doing for your daughter, bringing her here and telling her that these things are real is super important." And she was like, "Don't thank me. It's every single person on the ice here. It's you, it's Madison, it's Jill, it's Dempsey. I mean, it's Danny, it's Haley Moore, it's all of these people
yeah.
in the NWHL and specifically in Boston that have showcased that anybody can do this
Mm-hmm.
if they love it and if they try for it." And I thought that that was, something that was super. It was crazy because like I said, when I was little, it was never a thing, and there wasn't even enough defenders to field the D line. It was me and two other players, and one had just learned to play. So they were like, "Okay, well, they're gonna swap, and you're gonna just stay out there, and if you wanna break, take a penalty, I guess."
Yeah, yeah,
Like, oh,
yeah.
okay,
Fun. Yeah, yeah. That's legit advice, totally.
yeah. If you want to break, take a penalty.
But I mean, the way to change that is to do what we're doing right now, right? Like that's the way
Yeah,
to change it. More people. I can't even imagine. I would love to know the hockey enrollment rates for programs in cities that have NWHL teams. I would love to know that. I think it would
I think
probably
it
be
would be
staggering,
massive.
massive. So in this same article that gave that quote, you had talked about season 6 and some upcoming changes, exciting things happening. So one of the things you had talked about was an extended preseason,
Mhm.
and another thing you had talked about was greater involvement of NCAA players. So can we just get like the preseason to start like next week?
I
Maybe
was thinking like tomorrow, but
tomorrow.
next week works for me.
Cool, 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 cool. You'll talk to the higher ups.
Yeah, I'll call him.
Pull
I'll
some
call Danny right
strings.
now.
Cool, 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 cool. So, what kind of things can we expect differently for next season?
So one of the biggest challenges is our players get like 2 or 3 practices with one another and then they're thrown on the ice, which isn't really a challenge. It's obviously, you learn to gel, you just figure it out. But we don't have these 3-month long camps, 2-a-days, training, all this stuff because the runway is just not there. So this year, one of the big changes is that they're going to have a longer runway. They're going to have more practices as a team. They're going to have more opportunities to um, play against different clubs, whether that's NCAA's, whether that's different functions of groups of players, whatever that may be, whatever that looks like. But they'll have more opportunities. So this year there was a little bit of a roadblock when it came to getting preseason games going. NCAA rules are also pretty challenging. A team
Mm-hmm.
can only have so many games. So when we might have the ice and the Terriers might be available, but if the way their season works out and their hours on ice don't gel, then NCAA will kick a game out and say, no, you can't play that preliminary game or that preseason game. So we've got a lot more of that hammered out, and we have more time for those players to meet each other on the ice and just have extended time to just become a team, figure out your captains, figure out your PA leaders, figure out who's going to play what role and how the team fits with one another. So there was a lot of changes that we were really thoughtful about, trying to get more ice, whether that's ice for the entire team in practice or midday slots or morning slots to at least invoke some skill sessions. So that
Mm-hmm.
was some stuff that we were being asked for that we're really excited about, and that a change that I work really closely with Shelly Picard to implement, because as a former player, she knows how hard that is.
Yeah.
And she's a former captain of the Riveters, so she knows what it's like when her team hasn't had enough practices under their belt and then expects to get on the ice. So that was a big conversation for the PA.
Practice is huge. Like practicing with your team, especially if you're new, especially if you have new players, is huge. For example, my women's D team, we went from being the bottom of our 8-team league to having finally getting a consistent coach, former NWHL player, and practicing every Tuesday. And we were now we're second in the league, and we were gonna compete this weekend in the championship game, but that got canceled. But like practice is huge. No matter where you are, practice. The importance of practice is undeniable. Also, go Washington Wolves. So, I have you when people are watching you right now, I'm sure they're being struck with how natural you are and how good you are on camera. But you do have some play-by-play experience. You have lots of experience behind the camera, but also this isn't your first time on the show. You were on the show, albeit only for a small amount of time, when we interviewed Madison Packer. And for those of you who don't know, Madison and Anya are married, and which is good for me because it's a lot easier of a last name to say, and I didn't have to ask you how to say your previous last name, although you said it before, and now I forgot what you said. But when I was doing my research on you, I found your wedding website. And one of the things I saw was your wedding story. Also, I creeped on your wedding registry because I have a wedding coming up, and I was looking for ideas. Really good Williams-Sonoma choices. Lot of lanterns, though.
Maddie did it all because I'm not like a decorative. I don't have any like eye for things. I'll just be like, that looks good. And Madison's like, this doesn't make any sense.
What were the lanterns for?
They're, do we have one out right now? No.
They're just for decoration?
They're for decoration. Like sometimes we put like decorative candles in them or
very nice.
Like plants or different stuff. Oh, one's out on the bar. I'll show you later. It's just they're like big black steel lanterns.
But like very good stylistic choices on the Williams-Sonoma. But I also read your wedding story. There was a point to my creepiness, maybe, not quite sure. But you and Madison met over a phone call about hockey. And I'm gonna quote your website, okay? Madison called Anya after retiring from the NWHL to ask if Anya, as the head of the Players Association, would support her efforts to come back to the league. Anya readily agreed and followed up with a few text messages asking Madison to grab a drink. And Madison, this is adorable, said no.
No, she
said no. And this is really funny. This is really funny because I send out a short survey to people before they come on this show and ask them like certain questions. And one of them was, what is your favorite video game? Right? Like asking for an answer. And what Madison responded was, no. And then my next question was, a dance circle has just formed. What is your go-to dance move? And Madison responded, go to the bar. But luckily enough, I guess she eventually said yes. Maybe?
Eventually.
Persisted? So can you just give us like a little bit of a tweet chat of how you got, to be where you are today?
Oh, I lied. That's how. She was like, we were like in the middle of a conversation about literally her not wanting to be dating me. And so she was like, yeah, well, whatever. I just have like so much on my plate. Like, for example, this weekend I'm coaching at Beantown, which every person in hockey like knows that that's like this tournament in the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting in my house in Connecticut, like, oh my gosh, I'm coaching in the same tournament. What time's your game? And she was like, this time. And I was like, so weird. Mine's right around that time. Do you want to grab that beer? And she was like, sure. I guess if it's literally so convenient, we might as well go out for a beer. So I literally said, okay, that sounds good, whatever. It gave me like 4 hours. I like got ready at my house. I got in the car, started driving to Boston, which I wasn't going. Like that wasn't like my intention. It was a Saturday. I was just hanging out at my house, like at my apartment.
Sure.
And my parents are there. So I was like, worst case scenario, this date's an absolute bust. She doesn't actually like me, which she's said multiple times, but we will go our separate ways and I'll go to my parents' house and I'll hate her forever.
And you can just cross-check her in the back in the games. Any other normal
person would be like, this is the natural progression of what will happen.
Right,
so I drove to Boston, go out with Maddie, and if anyone's like driven on like the Mass Pike, like into Connecticut from the Boston area, there's like this big hotel that looks like a castle. So she was staying there, and it's just a Sheraton in Framingham. It's like nothing special, but it looks like a castle.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh yeah, like I'll meet you at that Sheraton. And she happened to be staying there because it was on the way from Connecticut and I was running late.
How far did you drive? I just want to be really clear. How far did you drive?
Like 3 hours.
to meet her for drinks.
And I don't even drink. Like I don't even like to drink. So like I just sat there with like a Bud Light and let it get warm.
Aww.
them
my
now are married, so
God.
now it makes sense. But had she said no, this would be like the sweetest story to
Yeah.
the most embarrassing story of your entire life.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least people would have felt bad. I mean, maybe you would have just asked her for gas money.
Could you imagine, the next game, she's like, yo, what up?
What up?
Remember that time you drove all the way to Boston to meet me and I hate you? I would have been like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was super
I would have
rude.
been like, that was my evil twin. I don't know. Who did
That was Banya. That was Tanya Packer. Tanya.
That was Tanya.
So, speaking of the next game, you all played each other after you were dating.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
On separate teams. So, I know how I would act. I would go harder against the person and really aggressively stick check them and give them a little tap, but that's kind of me. So what were those games like where, because if I was a teammate of Packers, I would have been afraid to mess with you, right? I would have been like, okay, Packers dating Anya now, so
so this is the thing. Let me paint the picture. I was already the head of the PA, so I already had a little bit of on ice respect. People weren't trying to kill me, which was already very thankful. I was already in a very thankful position.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is phenomenal. I won't be killed. That doesn't necessarily mean that anyone took it easy on me, but I'm not going to intentionally get hurt.
Right.
Now, add that to the fact that your idea of what you do to the person that you're dating is what Madison did. And Madison is the definition of stronger than me. So at that time, we were mixing the lines up a little bit. So I was playing on the third line on wing, and she was on the first line on wing. So we were lining up against one another, and I'd be like, babe, let me win. Please, let me win. I'll go.
I'll buy you dinner, babe.
You know what I'm saying? I am so non-threatening. Let me just get one shot on net, and then I'll get off the ice, and I'll just leave.
You're not please. Non-threatening. No one here thinks you're non-threatening. Okay. Just to be clear,
they're all wrong.
Compared to Madison, maybe.
I was so innocent. And then, literally midway through the game, we were in Barnabas, and I pinch on the wall and try to get the puck out. She breaks it out past me. My defender pinches, so I come back. She gets a cross ice. Come on, stretch pass. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God.
Goes all the way around, toe drags, goes top chat. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm on the bench for the rest of the game. What's the point of you doing that? I was so rattled. I was like, we literally got in the car on the way home. I was like, don't look at me or talk to me.
I'm just imagining you 2 years later, her doing something wrong, maybe you don't do the dishes or you leave a mess, and then you're like, well, do you remember when you toe dragged and scored on me? So
yeah,
does that happen still?
Or there's clips from before we started dating of her hitting me on the boards, and every now and then I'll find it, it's a GIF, and I'll be like, yeah, you want to get into this right now?
Yeah, babe, how do you feel about that? So speaking about on the boards and getting into things, I was having a really good chat with Cetacean Nation earlier this week, and we were talking about the impressive household stats that you have racked up. I mean, goals, assists, points. It's amazing. The things that you two have done is amazing. But my favorite stat, I think, is penalty minutes. And when you left the league, you all were leading the Packer household was leading the league in penalty minutes. So I just wanted to give you an update. So despite not playing at all this season, the Packer household, it's still winning. Yeah, still winning. Leading the league in penalty minutes at 165. Thank you to Wayne for these stats. But Fratkin is coming up quick. She's at 154. So you better tell Madison that. Let her get on to that.
I was gonna try to justify it by saying Maddie got a 10-minute major that I thought was ridiculous, but that still puts us in first. So
still put you in first.
I've got no comeback to that aside from the fact that Madison.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a conversation. We'll have a conversation.
Yeah. Tell her to keep going. Keep going. Now speaking of Fratkin. She was our guest on our show last week. She won Defender of the Year. That's a huge honor. People at home might know you two are friends because of clips like this. I'm just gonna play a clip of you really quickly. Hold on.
Fratkin, Winds and
Fracken
misses
whiffs.
it. Chance for
and
turnover.
then
Fracken, that's a
immediately
penalty.
fouls and then throws her
Wait, I'm
hands
sorry,
up
I'm
in
laughing
the air.
I love
and
Kaylee.
you
She's one
start
of my best
laughing
friends, but she
out
just put her
loud
hands up
as
like that
commentator.
wasn't.
Yeah, that's what just happened. But people might not know is that you were actually roommates with Fracken, were you not?
Yeah, she was my college roommate.
Yeah. For how long did you live together?
We lived together all 4 years. She was stuck with me.
So four
all
years.
college.
So would you say that you were close?
Oh my gosh, she's like my sister.
So you know her pretty well, you would say?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll be the judge of that. Welcome, Anya Packer. You can unmute Twitch now to the second ever NWHL Newlywed Show. All right. So, first question coming at you now.
This one's a softball. Of the two of us, who has the better fashion sense?
The question is, who has the better fashion sense?
Come on, Bratty. She's saying her because she is like, I don't buy any. Well, hold on. This goes back to a whole bunch of things. But Bratty's mom has been in fashion her entire life, and she's like one for a deal. So like Bratty's mom will always call us and be like, oh, I just found the most gorgeous boots. So like Bratty's mom always gets the best stuff in Vancouver, like most gorgeous clothes, all this stuff. She like makes beautiful clothes. She makes like sports apparel. So Bratty's always had this like unreal fashion sense, which like sometimes is ahead of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you can't wear a skirt. Like that's not cool. But then like 2 weeks later, it's like the coolest thing. And I'm like, oh, come on. But
all right. So what's your answer?
It's Bratty.
Okay, let's see what she said.
Me, for sure. Every single time we would go out or go do something, I was always the person to be Anya's stylist. I would always pick out outfits for her for every occasion possible.
So who picks out your outfits now?
Honestly, still Bratty, because sometimes I'll like be like, oh, I have the cutest thing, and I will like think about like showing Madison, and Madison's always just like, yeah, you look great, or she'll be like,
fine.
I hate that, and I'm like, you don't understand.
That's fashion.
Okay? You don't get
fashion.
it. And then I have to call Bratty, and Bratty's like, no, that's truly the ugliest outfit I've ever seen, and I'm like, okay, no one understands. I'm gonna wear it anyway. And she's like, seriously, don't leave the house.
Oh my god. All right, question 2.
When we played for the Connecticut Whale and lived at Pony Ave, who was our 5th roommate?
All right, when you two were living together, who was your 5th roommate?
Hold on. Okay, so Pony Ave, it was myself, Cheyenne D'Arcangelo, Chelsea Layden, and Bratty. And I had a cat whose name was Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, one of our really good friends, Shaggy, was living in Wilton at the time, and he was always there. I'm going to say it's my cat, Frank, but she doesn't like Frank, so I don't think this is the right answer.
You almost had it.
It said Shaggy!
None other than Brendan Shaggy. Shaggy lived at our house, I think, more than Anya did. He would always find him on our couch, on our floor, came and support every single game, and was a big-time Pony Ave fan.
You get half points. All right, ready for question 3, or do you need a moment?
Okay, yeah.
Since we both love sushi, I had to throw this one in there. What is my go-to sushi Cali order?
What is your go-to sushi Cali order?
No questions asked. It's the spicy tuna and gomai.
Oh my god!
It's like it's a plate legit this big, and it's if anyone goes to Vancouver, go to Sushi Cali. It's the best sushi I've ever had in my entire life, and the gomai is like it's literally like steamed spinach, cold, but it's got this like sesame. It's the most addicting. I literally will get like 6 orders of that.
So can you, bonus question, there's also a roll she orders.
Oh, an Alaska roll.
For those who don't know, Sushi Cali is a bomb sushi place in Vancouver that is my favorite of all time, and I took Anya to it every time she's visited. My go-to order is spicy salmon sashimi and gomai. For those who don't know, it's spinach with this peanut sesame sauce. It is so good. And if she can get the bonus, it's an Alaska roll.
Very good. We're going to give you full pointage on that one. And actually double points on that one, really, to be honest.
Yes.
All right, last question. You ready?
Yeah.
What is my favorite ice cream dessert? Now, this could be a little bit of a trick question, seeing as I have two favorites from our time in Connecticut. But let's see if you've got this one.
Favorite ice cream dessert, and there's two of them.
Okay. I know them. One, we used to go to Stu Leonard's because Stu Leonard's has the best froyo. So we would go to Stu Leonard's, we would get a cone, and they always had like the bombest, like, first of all, the whole grocery store is amazing. So if you're ever in Connecticut, go to Stu Leonard's. But they have the best froyo. And then we got like highly addicted to mochi. Like, you know, the little like ice cream bombs. So we had those probably every other day. So we'd go to Trader Joe's and get mochi, or we'd go to Stu Leonard's and we'd get froyo. We consumed so many desserts that are ice cream type dessert things that I'm like, that could be wrong, but if I'm wrong, I'll kill her because she's lying.
You are 100% correct.
The answer is mochi and Stu Leonard ice cream.
Great job. Really? Wait, did that whole thing play? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
All right, good. Excellent job. You're really pretty good. I mean, you got almost full pointage there. You said most of the right answers. You fumbled between the cat and Shaggy, but you got it. You got it.
I should have known. She legit hated my cat, so I should have known. But
like, your cat's trash, man. Does it count?
Yeah, she was like,
trash,
man. Your cat.
You hate it, feral cat, man. You've been pretty good at thinking on your toes recently. We've seen you a lot commentating on Rivs games. Is that something we're going to see more in the future? Are you planning on staying in that capacity?
I love it personally. I think it's so much fun, and I've become really. I've really started to anticipate. I guess I'm not become really, but I've really started to anticipate what I want to say and how I feel about certain things and breaking the play down. And that's kind of using my hockey brain that I always have had, and then finding a way to turn it into words. So that has been a fun skill for me. But we've registered for the in our like our baby registry for those big earphone things. And
for the kid.
So yeah, our little man's gonna come to every game. I don't know if I can have a bopping a baby and being on the call. So
I love it.
I'm gonna have to figure that out. That's already gonna be something that I'm working on. Maybe I'll make a few guest appearances,
but that's the thing though. Like, you see those congresswomen coming to work with the baby and the baby Bjorn with that little head things on. You should totally do that. I mean, just like break down those stereotypes. Just because you have a kid doesn't mean you have to stop doing your career.
I'll put him on too.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm assuming if he's a Packer and a baby, he'll already know everything there is to know about hockey. So he'll be my color. I'll do the play-by-play.
Yeah. And now to Mason Packer for a play-by-play analysis of just what happened.
Yeah, he's gonna be amazing. I can tell. It's gonna sound like me, actually, if he does that.
Oh my god. So you did pretty well with the on-the-fly Fratkin questions, but like, let's be honest, those are kind of softballs. Like, I'm not gonna try to take away from what you did as like a person, but those are softballs. So I think it's time for a game of would you rather. If you're interested. You interested?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. Please answer them as truthfully and as quickly as possible. Your final score will be tabulated by a group of judges, and the score is non-negotiable. So please, just don't argue with the final score, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Your favorite band is Dave Matthews Band. Would you rather have to listen to every song of theirs as a Kids Bop cover, or would you only be able to watch Adam Sandler movies for the rest of your life?
Could I also listen to Dave Matthews Band if I chose the Adam Sandler movie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but you can only listen to Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah,
okay,
that's fine.
All right. All right.
He's so multifaceted. I'm all in.
Okay, great. Would you rather always have to wear wet socks or faintly smell like bologna at all times, but no one is quite sure if it's you?
Socks.
Wet socks.
I can't with the smell. Like when my clothes smell like wet. Like if I leave my clothes in the washer for too long and then dry them and they smell like wet, I can't leave the house. I'm like, I need to change and shower 15 times.
Would you either never, ever, ever again be able to bend your elbows or never, ever be able to bend your knees?
Knees. Definitely knees. I'm much too much with my hands.
Okay.
Could you imagine if I did this whole thing like this?
I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great commentary, great content.
Because I do a lot with my hands.
It'd be great content. Really, it would. Would you rather only ever be offered Pepsi products or only be able to wear jeans that are flare cut?
Pepsi products. Could I have water?
Yes. But you can never have Coke products again in your life.
That's fine.
Okay.
My wife lives on Diet Coke. They should just put an IV in.
Have you ever tasted your dog's treats?
No.
Really?
I've definitely been curious.
Just
like
me?
sometimes I'll have like peanut butter. Like one time we got cupcakes that were peanut butter, like frosted something. And I was like, but that's not me. That's not my hustle.
Fine. I was just trying to slip that one in. Would you rather have an Audi belly button that's 3 inches long or have a head shaped like a loaf of bread?
The Audi belly button. I already have an Audi belly button, which I'm sure will only get worse as I get
Have you ever
bigger.
measured it?
I have. Okay, if it's not 3 inches, like, what are we doing? I do have an Audi though. Madison will be like, "Oh, your belly button." I'm like, "What am I supposed to do with it? What it looks like?"
All right, I'm gonna move on from that. Who's better at hockey, you or Madison?
Madison.
Oh.
Zero question.
All
I
right,
wish I could say me. I selfishly want to be like, I'm way better.
I'm way better.
Zero chance. Yeah, I'm better at everything else though, so don't worry.
I love that. I love that so much. All right, so strong work. Let's go to the judges for a final score. Oh, you got a 12. Very good. 12. It's a 12. That's a great score. So that's enough of my questions. Let's open it up to the public. If you haven't already submitted your questions, please shoot them in chat or shoot them on Twitter right now. We will be spending the next probably 5 minutes answering questions. We will get to as many of them as we possibly can. All right. Are you ready for questions?
Yes.
All right. Who is the most difficult player that you played with to defend against? And you can't say Madison, just for obvious reasons.
In the history of my life, or that's in the league right now?
In the league right now.
Honestly, probably Jill. But the reason I'm saying this is because she's like, you could physically be on her 100% and she'll still find a way to put it in the net. It's so frustrating. She was on my team, so like I loved it about her.
Mm-hmm.
But then when she wasn't on my team,
You hated it.
I was like, can you just get off the ice, please?
Can you just not?
Can you just not?
Can you
Yeah,
just
Jill's
really
but she's such a hardo. Like, if anyone knows her as a person, she would die. Like, she goes so hard all the time, and I feel like that's what I bring to the table. So playing against her, I'm like, I hate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Demps is a competitor. She is a hard worker, competitor. I love the fact that I've had these amazing athletes on the show, and like I can really speak to this.
Yeah, she's sick. She's actually like cool. She's also like a sweet person, and she's funny because she'll like take a chirp really well too. So when she's your teammate, you can like really get on her. Like you can chirp her all day. She's the best.
I love that. And that was from Unicorn Duke. So this next question comes from Twitter. From Overtime Stress. Miss Packer. Ooh. What are your tips for girls who practice road hockey on the road? And do you have any good book recommendations for them to read?
Okay. So I think the question is, how do you prep for like road games and like stuff
for
like
sure.
that. So I think that for me, one of the biggest pieces was just being mentally focused. It's super easy on a long bus trip or whatever it may be to get disengaged. and to say like, oh, I'm tired or my legs are drained or, I'm not thinking about going to play a hockey game right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot. Just travel, day of travel is a lot to deal with. And I think that for me, one of my favorite things, I read Mind Gym. I read like The Alchemist. I always try to find like really deep books that help me find a meaning. So there's either two emotions. I'm either like completely wanting to dive into something that's all about sports or an auto buy of a female athlete that I'm obsessed with, or Madison always gets me books about like how women rise or different like really powerful women books. So there's that whole column. And then there's the other column of like really awful summer that like
Jodi
makes you
Picoult.
forget where you forget where you're going and you're like, oh my God, I love this story. It's about this girl that asked another girl out 15 times until she said yes. And I'm like, that will be me one day. Real life.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. Next question comes from Go Riveters 70. Anya, what are your goals for women's hockey improvements? Very you could really say anything you want.
I could say so much.
More, you'd be like more Packer.
I'm gonna go small and then know that my whole world is going really big. My long-term goals for women in hockey are that they can be proud of the strides that they're taking and of the movement that they've created, and whether that means that they're reaping the benefits of that full-time salary, that insurance, that continuation of games, that all these different clicks upon the growth and trajectory, or whether they're not there yet and they retire early, or they have to step away, or they go into a coaching role, or whatever that may be. I want women to be proud of the strides that we're making.
Yeah.
Whether that's with the NWHL or the strides that they're making outside of the NWHL that help us grow.
Yeah.
All of these different things are hugely important. And if we don't make people feel powerful and make people feel like they're proud, then they're not going to go through that wall with me. So I think that the biggest goal is to help people and help women and help the people involved, which aren't always women. A lot of times we have a lot of men behind us that, kind of stand with us on their heads and hold us up.
Chris Boda, Mike
Chris
Murphy,
Boda, Mike Murphy, those same guys,
Boda.
Matt Falkenberry, that does the broadcast with me, or did, and we were in the Riveters. Those men do so much to highlight women, and I think that every single person should be really proud. And I think that with that pride comes the ability to walk into a boardroom and take it over and totally kick it in the face, which is super important.
Yeah.
So I think that that's where my, like, for forever, I wish that would be what I leave on women's hockey.
Yeah. Stats Murph. Excellent answer, by the way. Really, really top shelf. UNH77 says, how close is the league to adding another team? And can it be in DC? That was for me.
You're the DC ad. I think it's going to be something that we see sooner rather than later. Obviously, there's so many markets that are hungry for women's hockey, and just some of the inner workings that our league is talking about. There's just constantly been this push to grow and grow and grow, and I think every time we succeed and every time we do a really good job at it, and let the wine breathe, to say that we're ready for a new team. And so 2 years with the Whitecaps has been tremendous. They've become an integral part of our league. And, the work that Jack Brote and the entire Brote family has done to maintain women's hockey at such a high caliber in Minnesota has not gone unnoticed. And to watch them perform so well there and integrate so well into our league, I think only shows that we should be growing sooner rather than later.
And the great thing about the Whitecaps is that not only have they been successful on the ice, but they've been successful off the ice. They are selling out home games. They have an amazing mascot. Their fans are amazing. It is fiscally successful. Like, it is a good business model. So people going in are maybe questioning what kind of investment is, because when you invest in a sports league or a sports team, a sports franchise, it's not about that day-to-day business wins. It's not about the day-to-day monetary gains. It's about the investment over time. It's kind of like a house, right? It's about how much it's going to invest over time. You're not making money on your house day-to-day, but you will eventually. But for some people, that's really hard to understand. So the Whitecaps are really an excellent business model for people who are interested in getting involved. I know that the Pittsburgh hockey scene, the Detroit hockey scene also could definitely shoulder a team right now. So that it's just so exciting. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I
There's
can't
so many
wait.
markets. We could name 100, honestly.
Yeah.
And then like you're saying, every single person looks at women's hockey and either thinks, oh, it's not there yet, or this, that, or the next thing. And we're looking for the people that say, wow, what potential.
Yeah.
When they look at
Huge.
the NWHL and it could be the WNBA, or you look at the NWHL and it could be the next NHL, it could be the next NBA, it could be whatever it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And without having those visionaries in the conversation, it's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
And every time that we have conversations with sponsors or with potential growth markets or potential partnerships, Danny's always looking for that next innovator. And I think that that's become just the ethos of our league, is just how to find the next person who's hungry and ready.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that happened with Cannon Capital, and a lot of that clearly took shape in Boston this year with the Boston Pride, and just how they've been able to ink deals and add resources and help their players and have such a successful season. All of these things are just proof in the pudding as to why we need innovators, and they're going to make us shine, and that's what we need.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. All right, Jolly Whiskey wants to know, are the playoffs ever going to go back to series?
That's a good point. Listen, we were working on that. That's something that the PA was like, this needs to change. So there's been a lot of really innovative ways that we've thought about that. When we look at standard, typical restraints that hurt women's hockey, often it's, not being able to have multi-event sellouts, or that our players are still working full-time, so that we're taking, 3, 4, 5 days on the road for these series. There's a lot of things that come into play, nothing that we're afraid of, but all things that we're working towards.
Yeah.
Whether that's educating players on a different type of playoff format, or whether that's fighting alongside the league to expand weekends and appreciate that fans will go to those games. Obviously, the first game's always challenging, right? The first game in playoffs is always much lighter in attendance and demand than game 7 that we would know in the NHL. So trying to overcome those hurdles as they stand, and obviously more seasons with more sellout crowds help justify the increased cost of adding more playoff games. So I think that's always going to be a part of the narrative as we grow, is to look at where our loss leaders are and try to eliminate them, not to exacerbate them. So if ticket sales is challenging for us and we don't yet have 5 teams selling out every single game, it's hard to say let's add more to the playoff structure, but it's definitely something the PA's asked for. And watching Danny and Shelly come up with some new ideas there has been really exciting, because we're open for anything at this point. We really want to grow and put our foot down and kind of figure out what's right for women's hockey. So there's been some interesting conversations on that.
I think that value and quality has been a larger emphasis of the NWHL than a lot of other things that I've seen. It seems to be more of an interest in producing quality content, producing quality teams, producing quality, than trying to just go and disperse everything everywhere if it's haphazard. They're really trying to focus on the players and the players' health, the players' well-being. So, taking the time isn't a bad thing. Yeah.
It has to be methodical.
Exactly.
In our situation, it's not something where there's a boundless amount of money or a boundless amount of time. And we all know how crowded the winter can be.
Right.
So when we take all the different sports going on in the winter and try to add a lot more to that infrastructure, we need to be thoughtful about how our players are going to be received and how they're also going to feel.
Yeah,
exactly. An empty stadium does nothing for either group. It does nothing for the league head office. It also does nothing for the players. And that's not where we're at. Obviously, we're not in those situations where fans aren't coming to the games, but focusing on some of the increased growth metrics is hugely important. And there's no time to waste trying things that aren't going to be successful.
Yep.
And so we always will do these tests, these different things, like the Buffalo Believes Classic, which was amazingly well received. And that idea of an outdoor game was something we've never tried before. We've never had that experience. So there's been a lot of things where we're sure before we're risky. And I think that comes from it comes from a leadership group that's trying to be as forward and risk adverse as possible. And that's important, because
very important.
A loss of money hurts both sides, and we don't want to slow our growth down.
Yeah. Perfect. Next question comes from My brain. I heard you were on a national championship winning hip hop dance team in high school. Can you show us a move? Yeah, that comes from my
This
brain.
is the worst part about my life, right? Is I was so random for so long that like now I've acquired a certain set of skills. Like what's that like that's me. I have so many weird skills. So like we go like I'll tell you a story I'm not going to show you any dance moves, don't worry, everybody calm down. But I'll tell you a story because my wife and I, we were going to dance classes to do our first dance. And Madison's thought process when we first walked in was like, I don't know how to dance. I hope she teaches me like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we like go on our merry way.
Yeah.
So
teach me the wobble. Let's go home.
Yeah, like let's just figure it out. And I'm like, well, let's never do that again.
Yeah.
So we walk in there, and the woman's first thing is like she's like this little Italian woman. She's a ballroom dancer, and she was like. And Madison was like, whoa, that's not for me, right?
Can we get that one more time, please? Just one more time? Thank you.
It was like this like thing, right? And so Maddie's like, no, I'm not about this. And we go through this class and we like had all this fun. We were like learning the rumba, we were learning all these things. And so Madison was like whispers to my ear, she was like, we should choreograph our wedding dance. Like we should do a whole dance.
Oh my
And I
God.
was like, oh, okay, like sure, I don't care, whatever you want. And so we ended up going like 15 sessions later, this full choreographed dance. And Madison's like finally getting it. She's like moving. She's got all the things going. We're like practicing in the kitchen. We showed Kelly Nash our wedding dance like 55 times. I'm sure she was like, yeah, guys, it's great. Like, leave me alone. But we had like such a time with that. And it all stemmed from Maddie being like, you're a better dancer than me. I want to learn how to dance. And then like you said, when she like there's a dance circle, like where do you end up? And Maddie wrote at the bar. That was like most of our wedding night. Everyone was like, why is Anya like so about the dancing and Madison's so about the bar, and they just don't care?
Wait,
like,
so
that's who we are, peeps.
How many subs, how many bits do we need to give to get the video of that dance? I will do a lot for that video.
Maddie has it, I think. She said the other day, we have it. And she was like, oh, Brent like mentioned, somebody was like, oh, I'll show you. I was like, oh, okay.
So
I will post this video.
How many retweets does your tweet need to get for us to get the video? Give us a number.
Probably like I would say like 10. I would show you the video tomorrow. It's the best dance ever. It was our wedding day. We were so happy.
Okay, can you just give us?
We were so nervous and we messed so many things up.
Oh my God, give us the
perfect.
video. I want it so bad, please.
We did like this crazy dip situation.
Oh my God.
Like all the way down on the floor. Like I can't even explain it. It was the craziest thing.
I am so excited. Okay, so that means you're just gonna post it, right?
Yeah, I was
okay.
right, cool.
The Roomba, the ancient Italian dance of cleaning the floor. Okay, last question comes from Twitter. Ash Muzan says, when you transferred from player to the NWHL PA, were you nervous, excited?
I was nervous because a lot of what I was doing was justified with my on ice play. And when that stopped, it became like a little bit of like FOMO, sadness, like wanting to be involved, but then wanting to continuously educate players about what to fight for. Because I can only do so much. I can only say, hey, this is my initiative. If the PA doesn't agree, then, tough for me. They just go on with what they want to do, and they vote, and I action item what they say. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it then became a little nervous because I understood the value and what we needed when it came from being a W-2 employee to a 1099. And then I was responsible to communicate that message and fight for the next step if they were to agree. So there was a lot of times where I felt like the fate of women's hockey like rested on my ability to explain or my ability to be the conduit for these conversations. So it was really stressful. I would rather be on the ice for a goal against sometimes than the conversations that I had to have. But now, having some time and some confidence under my belt, I'm really excited that I can be the person that helps the players. I can be the person with Danny on these calls. I can be the person to advocate or change or hear or, listen to a problem and hear the real problem, because sometimes they're very different. sometimes what someone tells you the problem is and what the real problem is are two totally different things. So there's been a lot of things that I've learned, and a lot of times I felt like I was, you know, didn't have enough resources, wasn't prepared enough. Even now, I feel like time is a resource I don't have enough of. So I always want to ensure that I'm helping the players, and I never want to be a deterrent to their success. So there's a lot of nerves there. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I think that we all keep each other in check for success. And whether that means, you know, Lexi Bender is telling me, hey, Anya, that's not right, or we got to change this or that, or Rebecca Moore says this is actually a top priority for me, or, you know, Atlee Thunstrom's on my PA, so that's stressful right there. Like, God, she's so good at everything. I'm like, oh my God. But there's so many things with these players that are so smart and so wise and so plugged in, because these women are intellectuals. They're professional athletes, sure, but they're also 4 years college educated. They're also, you know, working every single day. They have all these accolades that I just like, sometimes I feel underwhelmed, but I'm empowered by every single one of them. So sometimes I'm nervous, but I think a lot of times I have the right people around me to be the change maker that women's hockey needs.
That's why we were just so happy that you were in the position you are, because you are such a strong advocate. You're not afraid to speak up for what you believe in, and you're not afraid to stand up to people. And we're very happy and very #blessed to have you. I've been working on a super secret special project, but I've been rewatching old streams, and I'm just constantly struck by the poise, the eloquence of the women who have come on this show before. It's just Brianna Mastel is so well spoken.
She's on my PA too.
I was listening to some of her answers to the questions I gave her, and I couldn't have literally like written them out better than she answered them. It's just it's amazing. Anya, you know, I cannot believe we finally had you on this show. I hope it was not as, you know, threatening as it seemed. Was leaving. I feel like it was good.
It was good. It was so much fun. It was funny. I got a little passionate. I like choked up once or twice. I'm sure people at home did too. It has honestly been such a pleasure having you on the show. It's also been such a pleasure listening to your commentaries, watching you on Twitter. You are a hilarious human being. Do you have any final messages for chat, for us, for the people at home watching? Yeah, I do, actually. I would love to just say thank you, every single person that took all this time out of their day to hear me, to watch me be like awkward and weird and tell my weird stories. That's so gracious. I mean, time, like I said, is a resource that we never get enough of. So the fact that you guys gave me your time tonight is so amazing. I feel so blessed. But I always get to talk about how empowering women's hockey players are, how good the players in our league are, or how exciting the work that Danny and I are doing. But none of it matters without you guys, or without you, Gamer Doc, doing the show and bringing people on and telling their authentic stories. You know, we don't have enough storytellers in women's sports, and every single person ready to hear the content and every single person willing to share it. You're changing the world just as much as we are. So thank you. I'm empowered by all of you. I'm blessed to know any one of you. Every time I see fans and how much they know about Madison and I, and how much they care about what's going on with us, it's unbelievable to me that we've been able to build this network of people that are just so kind and nice and good, and keep being good. If you're not being good and you're not being kind, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. True words. I mean, I wouldn't expect anything else than pure brilliance from your sign-off message. And please don't forget about your wedding dance video, because we certainly will not.
Wedding dance video. It's going to come your way.
I'm going to start spamming you like tomorrow around 8 a.m. if I don't see it, just to be clear. Well, have a wonderful evening. Stay safe in these times. And thank you so much for for coming on the show and taking this time out.
Thank you, everyone. Wash your hands.
Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye. Anya Packer, everyone. I know with her, we kind of got to know what to expect a little bit more, because we get to watch her color commentary, but that was better than expected. Just a really wonderful person. Okay, so the clip of the week is coming up. This was submitted by... I never know how to say your name, but Hockey Dokie or Hokey Dokie, whatever you want to say. Here it is, clip of the week.
what was kind of your mentality going into that overtime? What were you thinking?
The same thing that I always think, just stop the next puck. Sometimes you can let outside distractions get in your head, and that takes away from the game. So I knew that my team was going to score. All I had to do was keep the puck out of the net, and no team has Ali Thunstrom on it. So, I was pretty confident that we were going to come out with the win, and I couldn't think of a better way than Ali having this historic season to get the game winner for us.
That is one of the most Levier things I've ever heard. She's like, yeah, I mean, I just gotta stop pucks, And like, also, we got Thunstrom, so we're good. We're good. All right, everyone. That is it for our show tonight. We have 2 episodes remaining. 2 episodes. We will be here next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And our guest is the one, the only Taylor Accursey. So please tune in next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, thank you all so much for stopping by. Have a happy week. We hope you enjoyed the show. By tuning in every week and engaging, you're directly supporting the league. Do you want another easy and free way to show your love? Amazon Prime customers have access to 1 free Twitch subscription a month. First things first, if you haven't already made a Twitch account, click the sign up button, which should be in the top right corner of your screen if you're on a computer. What a great show. Oh, you're finished? Okay. Once you have a Twitch account, head over to twitchprime.com and follow the instructions to link your Amazon account to your Twitch account. Sounds complicated, but it's not. Once you've done that, click the subscribe button right here. And make sure you scroll down to subscribe for free. Done! Now you've accessed exclusive Twitch emotes and some other fun stuff. Pro tip, the subscription doesn't auto-renew, so make sure you do it every month. That's it. Thanks for watching. Go Sports!